Thank you to Girls Soccer Network and for IDA Sports for sponsoring this. I'm really excited to speak to all of you about the power of trust in soccer and maybe just share a little bit about my soccer journey. So again, thank you to IDA Sports. They have really awesome footwear catered to women. And I think, I know this personally, it's really great when you have gear that is catered to our body shapes. And as a coach myself, like footwear is essential to be comfortable, and we also like a stylish flair. So thank you again. Welcome. I am going to introduce myself, and I think it would be great if everyone shared in the chat too, so we could feel comfortable and maybe like there's a two-way conversation having going on, so that I can know, what is it like for you as a player, and am I hitting upon some points that will resonate with you when you go back into your playing environment? So as I introduce myself, I also invite you to share, where are you calling from or where are you joining in from, and maybe how old you are and what position you play. And so as I share, I am a soccer player. I've been playing since I was 3 years old. It's been over 30 years. I still play for fun. I graduated from Princeton University where I played. Our team went to a Final Four. So I've had a lot of highly competitive environments that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. And those come with a lot of stressors and a lot of challenges to self-trust. I've also had two ACL injuries, or repairs, right? Reconstructions. And that was a definite moment. Both times are moments where you start to question a bit of trust. And I'll share more about my story as we go through the slides. But, as a player, I've seen the highs, I've seen the lows, and I love the game so much. And I think I'm going to come back to that point a lot about passion and love for something and the role that that plays in trust, that it led me into a career in this sport. So I started coaching after I graduated college. I coached, I played for the Rough Riders, which is a semi-pro team at the time. And I started to really love the game and figure out, well, I studied psychology in college. Is there a way that I can bring these two together? And lo and behold, I found sports psychology, and I immediately decided to make a career out of that and become an entrepreneur, which again requires a lot of self-trust. You're not getting hired for a job that already exists and fulfilling a role that someone's telling you to do. You're kind of going out on a ledge saying, okay, can I make this happen? Can I make a career for myself? And you need a lot of trust in order to do that. So again, I'm going to touch on my experiences, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of, who I am and speaking before you, what experiences I'm bringing to the table. Right. And so I see some responses here just to get to know, okay, we have some girls 11 ECNL, so that's great. We have a high level here. I think this will really resonate with you because, like I said, when you have a higher level of a challenge, that's when your trust really gets tested. So anytime I'm doing a presentation or teaching or a lesson, I really start with the definition because we need to know what we're talking about. So if you look up trust and relate it to self-trust, because that's really what I want to concentrate on today, it will have a couple of these points that I made a little more specific for soccer and what we've experienced as players. So first is a firm belief in your capabilities. Do I feel like I know what I'm doing? Do I know that I can manipulate a soccer ball and go out on the field and make decisions? So having this firm belief, I think trust is really hard to, it's hard to touch and articulate because it's just a belief, right? And hopefully by the end of today, I can give you some tools that help you strengthen that belief. And there's a phrase, if you've heard it before, like, I need to see it to believe it. And trust is really the opposite. It's just believing it before you've actually seen anything happen. And so you see here on the right, this is actually the back of my t-shirts for my company. And I've kept this quote since I started back in like 2010. What my mind can conceive and my heart can believe, my body can achieve. And this really this is trust, right? If I can conceive something, right? If I can imagine me playing in college, me playing pro, me playing on an ECNL team, or scoring a goal or something on the field, and I really can believe that that will happen, then the likelihood of it happening goes up, right? And so this is an important concept for trust, is that try to trust first before something happens instead of waiting for it to happen, right? The second point is relying on your character. To me, I think we too often, again, look for results. Like, I need to score a goal to know that I can score a goal. I need to make a team to know I can make that team. And, that's the other way around. Like, how about relying on the controllable aspects? Like, I know that I can be successful because I am very disciplined. I am so committed. I show up every day. My passion is through the roof. I am extremely competitive. I am technical. I am smart. So we start to put together these character traits that, and for the girls on the call, like, you've probably been playing soccer, given your age, for at least 6 years or so, maybe even more. You've been showing these character traits all that time. And that's the proof. That's evidence that we can really rely on. So that's why I use the word rely, to know that I can achieve these things in the future. And the final point is knowing what you want. And this is where I mentioned before, I think I was looking back and thinking, okay, what was the current that got me to have such a successful career? And not necessarily in soccer. A little secret is my soccer career didn't end the best way that I wanted to. College was very tough for me. I didn't get the much playing time as I imagined or hoped. And I ended my career tearing my ACL. So not a great story. However, I love the game, and it led me into such a fantastic career. And I'm thinking, like, the phrase everything happens for a reason. What kept me going? What when I was 14, when I first tore my ACL, and that was years back in like 2000, when this surgery was brand new, what made me not even question returning to the game and continue going? And I think it was trust in knowing what I want. I want to play. I want to be on the field. I want to be involved in this environment. And because I want it, and I know truly that I do, I will make it happen. And so I think we can rely more. And honestly, this bullet point should probably be first. I think we can learn to rely more on what we love and what we want, and the rest will follow. And so even that is a skill in and of itself that I hope you can gain out of this talk. Now, this is the definition we'll work with throughout the training. I do like to look at the opposite. What isn't trust? What's the opposite if we're on a seesaw? And so I wrote fear and doubt, and feel free to share if there's a different word that you would choose to use. Like, what's the opposite of self-trust for you? For me, it's being afraid. So if I'm not believing in my capabilities, if I'm not relying on my character, I'm doubting myself. Maybe I just don't know if I can do something. Um, Maybe I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to put myself out there, and maybe it doesn't go the way I want it to, right? Maybe the results aren't going to be success. And so that's something we're going to have to work out. I think when we look at the opposite, this gives us a sign of how to increase trust. So I'm going to show you the next slide is self-assessment. So one second. I think self-assessment is really valuable, and especially with performance psychology. This is, yes, it helps with mental health is a big piece of this, but I think at the end of the day, the clients I work with, and for myself, we want to perform better. And I know the people on this call and the people listening, you want to do well. You want to achieve your goals. You want to play well on the field. And so we can break self-trust into the pillars of the game. And I've actually added even more pillars here. And I really want you to take a moment as I'm speaking, or as you're listening to me, do this for yourself. You don't have to share this, but maybe if you have paper in front of you or notes, rate how much do you trust yourself in each of these areas. And so I tried to give a snapshot of my levels of self-trust, maybe when I was your age. So my passion, 100%. I absolutely trust that I love this game, that this is the sport that I want to play. And I actually was a big multi-sport athlete in the days when that was actually possible. I played 5 different sports, but I knew wholeheartedly that soccer was the one that I wanted to pursue and that I got the most joy from. Does it mean it was always easy? No, but I knew I wanted to be in that environment. Then look at the physical. So these are the more obvious ones. Do I trust in my physical, my body, right? My speed, my strength, my agility. For me it was a little lower. Maybe I'm a little on the shorter side, or I do think my physical got a little bit lower after I had some injuries. I felt like maybe I lost a step. And so my trust goes up and down. And I think ultimately I want you to understand that this is not a black and white type of situation. Like it's not all or none. I trust myself or I don't. We can work with numbers. And if we can work with numbers, that means at any point in your life, you can increase the amount that you trust yourself. Technical. So that's your skills. My passing technique was spot on. I felt very trusting in that. But as I got into a higher level, and so I played at what would be ECNL now. We were one of the highest ranked teams in the nation, and I was a strike attacker, like a number 10 basically now. It's like a withdrawn forward. And I didn't really want to dribble. I didn't have as much trust in my dribbling skills at the time, as in comparison to my passing. But so it's again, you're looking for averages. Like there's not just one technical skill involved in the game. And then there's tactical. And for me, that was my game. I felt like, yeah, I really understand the X's and O's of it. I understand positioning. My spatial awareness is very good. My intuition on where my teammates are going to go was really good. And so I got a lot of trust. And another word you can probably insert there is confidence, but I trusted that I was smart enough to understand the game, and I would try to make up for some technical deficiencies in that way. Social. So this is a social sport. I mean, we're a part of a unit, we're a part of a team, and the way that you interact with your peers and your teammates matters. So I felt maybe I should have given myself a little bit higher than that. I felt like my social IQ was very high. I was a leader naturally, not a captain, but a leader in terms of getting the group together. And I trusted that I fit in that role within my team. And then psychological, and that's kind of where it's almost like the new topic that when I played, it wasn't addressed at all. Really, it was just kind of stuff you just toughed it out. You just kind of figure it out all on your own. But I think now we have enough knowledge and insight and science to show that when I say psychological, I mean the internal processes going on in your body, right? And so psychological is almost not even the correct term, but I will describe them for you. It's how you manage your emotions. It's how you control your attention, not necessarily your thoughts. You're always going to have automatic thoughts like, oh, why did I do that? Or I shouldn't have passed it there, or don't mess up. Yeah, those thoughts come into our minds, but how you work with them is your psychological skill. How you manage a frustration, a disappointment, embarrassment, all the emotions that you're feeling, that's a skill. And then how you regulate your body, and that could even be its own category. Like if my heart rate is starting to pound because I'm like nervous, maybe I'm taking a penalty kick, right? My heart rate is going through the roof. Do I have enough tools to regulate myself? Maybe use deep breathing. So the reason why this pillar is lower, it was lower at the time for me, and I'm sure I do this a lot with clients, like it's lower for most of them, is because we've never been taught how to manage these things, how to do exactly what I'm saying. And so our trust in our ability to do that, of course, is low because we haven't done it, right? And that goes back to the fact like I have to see it to believe it. Um, and I'll argue that right away is we're all equipped with these abilities. And hopefully by the end, and I show you the skills, they're fairly simple. We're all capable of doing them. It's just maybe knowing about them, having the information, and then taking action. And now after today, hopefully helping you all trust that, okay, there's going to be situations, difficult situations, there's going to be highs and lows within the game, but I trust that I can deal with them and manage them and still be a quality player, that they are not going to dictate um, my ability to achieve goals, right? So hopefully, you've seen this, take a picture. I want you to rate this for yourself and then just notice anything. So where am I lower? Where am I higher? Where can maybe I pay more attention moving forward? All right, so now we have defined self-trust. We have an assessment of our own selves. We know what the opposite is. And so let's dive more into the opposite, like and I had a hard time kind of labeling this challenges to self-trust. It's like what pulls away from my ability to trust myself. Another way of asking or phrasing this is to say, like, what is triggering me? What is causing me to doubt myself? What is causing me to have fear? Right. And I've just put some examples here that I see and hear of often. It could be as simple as I lost the ball, or I didn't write it, but what we're looking at is mistakes. All right. When I make a mistake, I feel like that's a sign that I can't trust myself. Well, that's not true. When I get subbed, when a coach yells at me, when I start comparing to others, and I know that it is very, very common. As first of all, it's common to compare to others just generally. That's just a human experience, especially when you're a teenager. But I would say that's happening more and more now with the way that we interact and we are exposed to, and social media. We see a lot of other people. We see their success that they're sharing, and there's a high tendency to compare. And in doing so, feeling like you can't trust yourself, that you're not good enough, which I wrote here too, because I hear that pretty much with every single person I work with and myself. I will include myself in this, have thoughts when I was younger, more so that I'm not good enough. And so we're looking for this out in the outside world. I'm looking in my environment to determine whether or not I can trust myself, to determine if I'm good enough to play this game. And it's all inaccurate. And hopefully I can prove that to you today. Trust comes from what you want to do, what you desire, and you already have the evidence there of your character that you've been showing day after day after day. We just need to redirect our attention towards the right things. And that's what I wanted to say in this is you're always going to lose the ball. It's just a part of the game. You're going to get subbed. You're going to get yelled at. I've had plenty of coaches that yell all the time. I'm going to compare, but is that a reason for me to lose trust? And I would say no, those are just normal parts of the sport experience and soccer for us, right? Even teammates blame you. And I know this happens, and maybe you might have done that to another teammate before. I think that's just a natural thing that happens. It's really a defense mechanism. I won't get too much into that, but it's how we manage our emotions. Some people blame, some people yell, some people make excuses, right? But these are separate aspects from this internal process of trust. And the last one here that I haven't addressed yet is this, in quotes, is because it's a thought. So that's why I put quotes around it. I have to prove myself. So this thought, again, pretty much every single client, it's an expectation that in order for me to achieve my goal, in order for me to play this game, I have to play my best all the time. I have to prove my worth. That's another way of saying it. But you don't have to do that. And my question to you all would be like, well, can you control proving yourself? Can you control playing your best all the time? Some people say yes, but you actually can't. There's so much involved in the game that you can't control. You can't control your teammates, the other team. You can't control a rock on the field that just bumps the ball in a different direction. So you can't control the outcomes. You can't control winning or making a team. And that's uncomfortable. And I think that's where we start to get a little like this anxiety or panic of like, well, I can't control most of the things that I want to happen, right? And so then fear kicks in. And when fear kicks in, you're not in a place of trust, right? So it's something to think about. I know what I'm saying is like, to me, it's like pretty deep but you're young and you have the whole world, you have your lifespan ahead of you, your whole career ahead of you. And it's really great to start thinking about this stuff now. I don't have to prove my worth. I'm born worthy. Worth is out of the equation. You're playing soccer because you love the game. It's not a means to prove yourself. You're a whole person. You're choosing to play a game. The game matters. The game is very competitive. It's challenging, right? And I'm sure you feel a lot of happiness and success through it. And so that's where this becomes complicated, really. It's a relationship. And I think anyone listening who really loves the game knows that, hey, you have this relationship with the sport. It's like a love hate. When things are going well, you're loving. When things are going bad, you're hating it. But at the end of the day, we do want to succeed. And I think as a professional working with kids, like I really want you to succeed too. And I look back and wish I knew some of this because it could have helped in my journey. I mean, I'm grateful for my journey for sure. It led me to this career and being able to go back to those experiences I had, the challenges, the injuries, the difficult coaches, playing time, just being stuck, and even the highs, and know how to take what I'm learning now and apply it into that time to help all of you so that your careers can be a little more smoother. I'm not saying you're not going to have challenges, but I look at it like a wave. Like when you get to the low, maybe just experience it, be thankful for it, and move forward. And that's kind of what we're going to get into here. Before I get into mantras, I do have questions, and this would be a good time to participate in the chat because I'm just curious what people think. One of the major questions, it's statistics, honestly, for me, it's math that helps a person navigate fear is knowing the statistics, the likelihood. So, what do you guys think? What percentage of the time does every single soccer player make mistakes? Like pros, not just you. You could think of people, your friend, peers, people on your level. It doesn't even have to be solely with the ball. And okay, so I see one number says 50. That would be with the ball, right? And what if we opened it up and said like on the ball, off the ball, offense, defense, 40? Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, oh, nice, 70. I think we make mistakes a lot. If we give ourselves more like credit off the ball, there's times we make really good runs and we don't get the ball. We are in a good defensive play. I think we make mistakes on average at least 40% of the time. And maybe 50, right? So that's across the board. I've been doing this for so long, and 40% is the number that comes up. But if you are talking about being on the ball, that number goes up. If you're talking about shooting, that number goes up. Like how often are you actually scoring a goal? Probably 10, maybe 20% of the time, depends what position you play. So great. It's not zero. So if we think that a mistake is evidence that I can't trust myself, that's a major error. And I hope you're following me because you're given that the sport is telling you you're going to make a mistake at a minimum 40% of the time. That's a guarantee if you're going to step on the field. And so every time, like if we keep interpreting that mistake as a moment to not trust, what's going to happen? Right. So I have this question here and you could just answer it. It's just simple, right? A yes or no. Can you have a strong sense of trust and still make a mistake? And I'm just talking about mistakes. Can you have trust and get yelled at? Yes. Can you have trust and get injured? Yes. Can you have trust and not make a team? Yeah. And there's probably more things here to really consider. Whatever's going on for the listener, for you guys, just try to think like, what is that uncontrollable that's really eating at me right now that's making me feel like I can't trust myself? It's part of the sport. It's unfortunate if it's one that's causing a lot of stress and difficulty. However, you can still trust yourself while that's happening. All right. And what would happen if you allowed every mistake or challenge to determine how much you trust yourself? And so I don't know if you want to type this or just really consider it as a rhetorical question. Hey, what is going to start to happen if every little mistake that I know I'm going to make a minimum of 40% of the time starts, undermine how much I trust myself? Will your trust get stronger or weaker? For sure, it's going to get weaker. But I don't know over time. And I try to think if this, how did this affect me? By the time I got to college, so my ACL was 14 years old. I recovered. I did really well in terms of getting myself back. I got recruited. And I keep going back to the injury because I do think that was the pivotal thing that made me start to doubt my physical speed. I was always very fast and I relied on that, and just being able to um I don't know, dominate my opponent in that way, if that makes sense. And then I went to college and the difficult relationship with my coach, and I think it just tore away. So my trust was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. It was because I was allowing external forces to pull away, and my fear was going up and up. My doubt was going up and up. And I can see it now clearly, but what ended up happening was I nearly wanted to quit. I did not quit because I wanted to graduate, but I took a year off, which it is just a year, but I love this game. I'm obviously still working in it. I took a year of like no ball, get away from me. I had to kind of hibernate from the game and recover myself a bit. And so I think that's an example of what could happen if we allow this to go on. Right. And in the face of challenge, this is just a more of a productive question to help you move forward. And this could be a question you ask yourself ongoing as you move forward from today. In the face of challenge, what is the lesson? What is the gift to learn? Right. So there are lessons in that. There is no such thing as success without challenge. It neurologically doesn't exist. And there's a lot of research out there showing that. I listened to Huberman Labs, and that was a big learning experience for me when I found out, okay, in the brain, there actually cannot be dopamine release, and dopamine is what makes you feel good and that sensation of success that we get. You cannot experience that without a challenge or a struggle happening before it as a precursor. So next time you're in a challenge, whether it's like a daily type of mistake or it's a bigger one, not making a team, or you're having some coach issues, try to take or injury, big injury, try to take a step back and say, what's the gift here for me to learn, as opposed to saying, okay, I can't trust myself now. All right. And I'm gonna, you know, move into the learning part that I wanted you to take away. I mean, not the learning part, more of the actions, right? So the strategies. What can you guys do to help build this sense of self-trust? Well, mantras are really important. Mantras are phrases that you say to yourself over and over. And just a note on why that's important is because a belief is a thought that you just keep thinking over and over again. So if I start thinking I'm not good enough, and when did that thought kick in? A lot of people say maybe when things got serious, and in our soccer world, things are getting serious at like 8, 9 years old. So if you start thinking I'm not good enough, or I have to prove myself at a young age, and you repeat, 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 it becomes a belief. We can rewire that. But the only way to rewire that is to come up with new beliefs, right? So here are some new beliefs. Oh, wait, I clicked it. Go backwards. I choose to play soccer because I love it. And I touched upon this before. I'll just give you a silly example I like to give to everyone when I see it. If you were looking at two infant babies, right? Two innocent little babies right in front of you, you would never look at one and be like, you're a worthy baby and you're not a worthy baby. It's outrageous to think that way. And that's when I say, okay, at what point did I start feeling that my worth needed to be proved through my soccer performance? And you can think about that. I don't know, when did it happen for you? If it has happened at all, but I know this comes up a lot. So it's irrelevant. That's the bottom line, is we're born with worth. And that is a mantra here up on the screen that I want you to keep repeating over and over. I'm born worthy. I am not playing soccer to prove worth. I am playing because I absolutely love it. Right. And then that second line I addressed already, challenge is necessary for success. So the challenge I'm experiencing, whatever it is, it's not personal. in a way. And I know it's a personal experience for you, but it's part of the process, right? If we can look at it and say, okay, if the challenge is a mistake, well, that's a universal experience. Everyone's making mistakes at least 40% of the times. So it's just necessary for the success I want to achieve. And the third, and see how these kind of all go together. Like the third one says, well, it's a setup, not a setback. So that whatever is happening that's, pulling away from your trust, it's just setting you up for something in the future. And I didn't say this yet, but that's what's uncomfortable about trust in a way is that you have to believe it before you see it, and you don't know the timeline. And that's one things I have learned in my older adult life is that yes, I could really want something. I could really love something and I could, use my energy and really try to take the actions necessary to achieve it. But I'm not necessarily in control of the timeline. There are going to be moments where I have setbacks, I have delays. And I look at that in my soccer careers. There were significant delays that seem like the end of the road, like a wall, but they're not. They're really just speed bumps. And when you're younger, I think that's harder to see because you haven't had that much time going through that wave that I said, through the process. I can look back now and say, oh, I get it. It's highs and lows and highs and lows. And I'm going to keep going after that success because it's worth it. Right. I already said, I'm born where they repeat it, but the next one is I'm right where I need to be. So when you're in it, just having that trust, and this is more of like a universal trust of like, look, wherever I am is what I need to be learning, what I need to be doing. It's who I need to be with right now. And you're still going to work hard. And we're talking about trust today, but you're still going to have all those other character traits, the discipline, the commitment, the competitive drive working for you. It's just trusting in all of that. And then knowing that, yeah, this is what I want. I'm doing this because this is absolutely what I want. And I would argue that no one can tell you differently than that. I mean, you know what you want. And if you're having a hard time knowing what you want, then it's worth taking some time to be quiet, get in a still space, and really reflect and journal about that. What is it that I want? And this could be something small within a game, like what do I want to happen within the game today or in training, or what do I want to happen in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Right. And to get you there, I put together just 3 actionable strategies that you could do tonight if you wanted to. First is creating a well or a journal. So any notebook will do. Or you can even do it digitally. I do value the pen to paper process. Also gives you a break from the screen, but the idea is simple where you take time to write down moments of success and also what you're grateful for. And the moments of success, um, that's proof in a way. And so, yes, I want you to trust yourself without proof, but at the end of the day, you've had years of proof too. So why not harness that? And I ask kids, how would you trust a friend? Do you trust a friend right from the beginning, or does it take time? Usually they say it takes a little bit of time and vulnerability. And so turn that towards yourself. You've given yourself a lot of time. You've been in the game for years. Be vulnerable with yourself. Write down what you're proud of. Write down things that you're struggling, but how you're working to get through them. And gratitude is probably the most powerful piece to this. And maybe simple, but maybe not for everyone. But it's just sitting there and saying, wow, it's changing your lens. Instead of being like, oh, why is this happening? Or, I can't believe I did that. And now I can't trust myself. I mean, maybe you're not literally saying that, but that's kind of what's happening. Instead of that perspective, changing it to say, I'm really appreciative that I had to go through this process and learn from it. And I kind of said that, I've been saying that throughout this talk. I'm appreciative for the difficult moments that I've had, and there were quite a few, because they've led me to such a great point in my life that I didn't know at the time. So it's the timing, right? I didn't know. And I do all of this now religiously, just a disciplined day after day. And you can find the pace that works for you. Is it a nightly routine? Is it a weekly routine? Is it a bi-weekly routine? You know, the more obviously the better, but find something that's realistic for you. Taking time, writing down what you appreciate and your little successes. What did you do on the field today that you were proud of? Or maybe you made a mistake, but you were able to get over it a little bit faster. That's a success, right? And it could be, you know, technical, tactical, social, anything that you remember the assessments could be anything to boost up. Like maybe a good idea would be figure out which pillar you're a little bit lower in. So for me, it was psychological. Maybe I want to celebrate small wins on my psychological growth each day, and that would give me more trust. Right. And then you can read through that journal when you just need a boost of self-esteem, boost of energy, trust, confidence. Could be before a game, or anything that's important. Or if you're just in a bad mood, you could read it. The next one would be a character list. So magic number is 3 for me. Obviously, you probably have way more character traits. I think 3 is just an easy number to remember. So it's a sentence, a character list. I am passionate, smart, and tactical. I was trying to think of some that describe me. So that would be maybe a list that I remind myself, and I can do it on the field in real time because it's very quick and fast, and you're just using your memory. Maybe after a mistake, maybe after someone criticized me, after I missed a shot or something didn't go my way. So I'm just remembering my top traits, which typically triggers an emotion of pride or confidence or determination, usually a positive emotion if it's done routinely, right? So if you can pick, I would recommend you can go online if you need a character list just to get your thoughts going, but try to pick the top 3 words, traits that describe you as a player, an asset to your team, and just make you remember, yeah, that's who I am, undoubtedly. You know, so we look at that definition, firm belief. Well, firm belief based on years of doing it. Yeah, and then I said, remind yourself anywhere, anytime. This is a very simple strategy that I teach everyone pretty much on the first day. And the last skill is visualization. So visualization is a little, I guess, a little more challenging. Not necessarily. I mean, it's something that you can practice. And when I mean challenging is that it does require a bit of practice to make your visions controllable. So if I'm imagining myself attacking 1v1 or something and scoring a goal, because that was the position I played, I would want that image to I want full control over that image, right? Being able to maneuver myself. And I want it to be as vivid as possible. So I want to be able to feel the temperature, hear noises around me, sense my cleats or shoes, or feel the sun, all different senses and as vivid as you can. So the better you get at that, the more that visualization can turn into reality. And there's a lot of science behind that. You know, the better we get imagining our future, the more likely it is to come. And here's the key aspect that I didn't address yet. It's emotions. So I didn't know this when I was younger because I used to do imagery visualization before games at night. My dad always told me to do it, and who knew, you know, it actually works. And now there's a lot of science to prove it. But the emotion aspect is what creates the trust. So feeling the emotions of success. That could be whatever it is for you. It could be confidence, happy, excited, proud, but building that feeling into the image that I'm forming, the better you can do that, you're actually putting your body into that physiological state right then and there. So if I was doing it the night before a game, I am now in a positive state and my brain waves are moving more clearly. And what state am I not in? Fear. So this is a way, or doubt, you know, this is a way to build a sense of trust and through desire. It's like, what is it that I want? And that's the first step here. Be clear on what you want. And it could be in a game, or it could be a visualization of you playing in college. Um, Imagine yourself with vividness, to whatever degree you can. If it's college and you're not really sure, try to build that image, and absolutely start to learn how to bring in those emotions and really sit with it. And if you need help with stuff like this, there's a lot of, if you just go to YouTube, there's a lot of uh what's it called? Like guided audios to get you started on this. And that's kind of what I do, is just search around of like, hey, guided audio for soccer, or visualization for soccer. And you could probably find something to help you start creating that image until you have enough skills to use it on your own. Right. I think just summarizing, trust, I guess I always come back to the idea that it really is a choice. And that's something that's really important, is that you can choose trust, you can choose fear. And I think sometimes we get paralyzed by our fear and doubt, as if you have no choice over it and that's just the way it's going to be. But that's not true. And that's something that I had to learn. It's like, no, I can train myself to be in a state of trust. And I showed you guys some actions that you can take. And they're not like mind-blowing actions. And I've been trying to tell people that lately, is that mental skills is nothing necessarily profound. It's about doing it every day. And I think that's the hard part, is to make time to sit there and journal, make time to visualize, make time to stop your thoughts and move towards maybe mantras and remembering your character traits. So if you can take these actions on a day-to-day basis, that level of trust, it's like it just slowly builds, and then your tank becomes full. And altogether, I have this quote: resilience is born from faith, a deep-rooted trust that no matter what happens, you have the strength and capacity to endure and grow. And I think ultimately why I liked this quote is because it is addressing building trust in your mental skills, building trust that you can navigate difficult situations. It's not about that moment being a sign whether or not you're going to be a great soccer player. It's having trust that you can handle whatever gets thrown at your way. And I think with that, it's just encouraging you to continue mental skills training. If your club is not providing resources for you, continue to seek them out. I have resources. Talks like this are very helpful, and really push yourself to not run away from, or I guess, emotions and difficult moments, but to face them and know that they're going to be the seed that really helps you grow into an adult and keep going on the journey that you choose to go to. You're not doing it for anyone else but yourself, because you love it. And I think I'll kind of end on that and open up to any questions maybe I didn't address. I know, I really concentrated on self-trust, but if anyone has something that they wanted to ask on this topic, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you so much for joining, for listening, if you're listening to the recording. And always feel free to reach out. This is where you can reach me, and also my website at Ferranti Empowerment.